Hello, this is Casey Schaub. This video is going to show you how to create a custom report to show student growth. You will be pulling from assessment data that's either from a manual or hybrid assessment or from a summary assessment. So to get started, when within Elluminate, click on Reports, then Create a Report. Now here in the title, you can put as much information or as little information as you want. I suggest putting in quite a bit of information so that helps pinpoint when this report was created and what its contents are. So I'm going to name this one DRA Growth 2016-2017. If this is a report that you're going to end up sharing with another teacher or educator, I suggest that you put your last name in the title as well. You can type in a description if you want. If I use the tag DRA, then I'll be able to filter my reports later on once I have a lot of different reports in there. I'm going to click on Submit. I know in the previous video we used this screen to create a report. Well, I know that Elluminate may eventually move to the new version, and as you can see there's this message up here that says a new version of this feature is available. Try it out. Therefore, in case they ever move to this version, I'm going to click Try It Out, so that way you've seen the previous method and maybe the new method of creating a custom report. So here we have data types, and if I click inside this box, you can see that I can choose from assessment, so think that's your manual or that's your summary assessment, core data, and maybe some other data you have in here as well, or summary assessment. So I'm going to start with my core data. So I'm going to type in core, and then click core data. So then now in my categories, I have a list of options. And without scrolling, I know that I'm going to use demographics. And then it pops up, I'm just going to click on that. And then what columns do we want? Well, let's first start with name of our students. And I can scroll through here. I'm actually going to go with the option that has the student name last, comma, first. The next thing I'm going to put in here is gender, and then click that option. And then I want current grade level. So on the Add Columns page, we're actually going to stop right now, and I'm going to click Add Columns. You will see that we're now in the Manage Columns tab, and it has those in the order that I've put them in there. You can rearrange these as shown in the previous video if you want to. So we now have to go add our assessment columns. So I'm going to go to Add Columns and do the same thing that we did before. Now remember, summary assessments did not have a bunch of pre-built reports for them. So that is the main reason I'm making a custom report on that summary assessment data. So if I click on that, I can then now find my assessment. So I might have a ton of different ones in here. So if I was trying to show pre and post test data, maybe I could pull up Algebra Unit 1 and then do my pre-test and my post-test. Now we're focusing on DRA, so I'm going to click DRA and then find my data here. DRA 2016-2017, this was my summary assessment where I entered student results. So now I'm going to click on columns, and I'm going to click on these in the order that I want them. So I'm going to do fall first, then winter, then spring. And then click Add Columns. I'm going to jump over to Report that's doing the same thing but for a high school mathematics classroom. So if I want to create a report based off manual or hybrid assessment information, I can click on Data Types, click on Assessment. I can start to type in algebra, and then it'll pull up all my different assessments that have that in the title. And so I have my manual or hybrid assessment. I have a lot more columns options like standards mastered, algebra 1 standards percent correct. I'll have one for question groups, percent correct. I'll have my performance band levels. I have a lot of options, all getting pulled from the manual or hybrid assessment data. Now, if you're looking just to show pre and post test data and you're looking at overall growth, if you type in percent correct, it'll have my question group percent correct, my standards percent correct, or my overall percent correct. So then I could pick from that and add columns. Now I'm going to jump back to my DRA example just to kind of show you what the next parts of the process are. The remaining steps in the custom report creation process are the same as they were in the video before, but we're going to go ahead and go through the process. So you can see I have my student demographic data up at the top, followed by my assessment data. Now there's a long string of text at the beginning. I'm going to go ahead and delete the leading information just so it says comprehension fall. I'm going to do the same thing for the winter column and the same thing for the spring column. Now if you wanted to add your performance band for the DRA comprehension levels, you could do that here, but I'm actually going to not do that. When you've finished titling these columns and adding the performance band or not, click Save Changes. The next step in this process, since we're creating a growth report, is to add an additional column called Growth that's going to show the difference between the winter and the fall assessment scores. Then we're going to create an overall growth that's going to show the difference between the spring and the fall assessment scores. So to do that, we have to click on Advanced and then click on Add a Calculation. So we're going to name this first one Growth. And we want to show growth between the winter assessment date and the fall assessment date. So this one has B as the value here, and this one has A. So I'm going to show B minus A for my growth. So to enter your calculation, we type in B minus A and click Save. So now once it's saved, I'm going to go back to Manage Columns and scroll down, and you can see the growth column is at the very bottom. So we want to change that. So I want to put this in between the winter and spring so that I can easily show the growth between winter and fall. So since winter is number 5, I need to make this number 6. Okay, from here, I'm actually going to add a performance band set. So I click on here, and I'm going to add my DRA growth. I'm going to click off Show Label, so that way it will show me my column and it'll show me the color green. Now you might actually just click Growth because you may have named your performance band Growth as instructed in a previous video. I'm going to go ahead and click Save Changes and View Report. I'm showing 2,450 students in this report. That's quite a lot. You might not have this problem. It may show you only the 30 or so students you have. But if you teach high school and have multiple sections, or even at the elementary level, if you have multiple student groups, this number might be pretty high. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and filter this. I'm going to click the plus button to add a filter. And I'm going to say I want to see the spring score, and I want to not be empty, because I'm assuming that all of my students are at least taking the spring assessment. I'm going to click Save Filters and then click View. So now I'm back to 26 students that have that data point. So as you can see on my report, I can see the comprehension fall, comprehension winter, and then this growth number. So Dan Brown grew 4 points between winter and fall. And if I click on this growth number, I can then sort the data based on the lowest number of growth, or click on it again and then do the highest number of growth. We're going to add another column after comprehension spring for my overall growth from fall to spring. So again, I'm going to click on Advanced, click on Add a Calculation, and then name this overall growth. And I want to show growth from my fall to my spring, so I have to take my spring score, which is labeled C here, and subtract A, which is my fall score. And I can click Save. I can go back to Manage Columns. I can scroll down, and now you see at the bottom I have overall growth. I want to add the same growth performance band set to this column. So I'm going to go ahead and click here and do DRA growth. So following the process that I used with the previous growth column, I'm going to take off Show Label and then click Save and View Report. So now I have a report here that shows my growth from my fall to my winter and my growth from my fall to my spring. If you want to download this report, you can just click on the PDF icon. And if you want to download it as an Excel file, you can click on the Excel icon. Thank you for watching this video.